Hey, welcome back. Today I'm going to give you a blueprint to start a business and show you what is it that I did exactly when I started my first company in the US 15 years ago. Please join me. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. I'm the guy who's on social media to build a legacy for his kids and pass on everything that I have ever learned. I'm a real estate investor and an entrepreneur. I'm known as a guy who's good at starting from scratch, building companies, and growing them up to 7 figures. But today, let's dive deeper into the practical things on how to get a business started. In my previous videos, I have talked a lot about how to define value, how to niche down, and how to create a strategy for your business. Some of the important things to get going when you already have that business. But what about when you really want to get started? What are the actual concrete steps? What's the blueprint that you can follow to get going? And how is it that I did this in my case? But first, to start, let's look at my background before I jumped into that cold water of starting my own company in San Diego 15 years ago. I had done real estate on the side as a side hustle with my brother in my 20s, but that was mostly buy and hold, meaning we bought some apartments and we renovated them and kept them as long-term rentals. So I really had no deep industry knowledge when it comes to increasing value, being able to fix something the right way, and understanding what the after repair value would be. And of course, I didn't have any local contacts. I was, after all, in a new city in a different country. So it was a completely different ball game. But before that, I had a corporate job for 10 plus years. I worked for a big global telecommunications company. I started in product marketing. I did program management, business development. And in my last 4 or 5 years, I was in sourcing, meaning purchasing. So I dealt with some Chinese, Taiwanese, Korean suppliers that did a lot of contract manufacturing deals with us. And that was my job. My team handled that. Everything was good on paper. I just wasn't happy anymore. And in many of my older videos, I talk about control. And I wanted to be able to control my own future better. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to jump from corporate and start my own business. So that was the background as to how to get started. And next, I want to take a look at some of these actual steps that I did and what you can do as well if you want to start a company. So number one, and the most important thing to get started, is to set up an LLC or a corporation that protects your liability. As I mentioned, I did some of those long-term buy and hold deals under my own name. And it wasn't until 2009 and 2010 when I set it up my first companies. One in Finland in 2009 and 2 LLCs in the US, of which one was a 50-50 joint venture with another gentleman and the other one was mine 100%. But I chose LLC. Set up LLC. There are different other entity structures too. In the US, you can do an S Corp or a traditional corporation or LLC. I'm not the biggest expert on this, but the point here is that you need to limit your personal liability because things do go wrong occasionally. So that you don't run into trouble with your personal assets, that it's basically protected by the company structure. That's key here. Second step is you open bank accounts. As a side note here, make sure you understand what kind of account you open with your local branch because there might be some maintenance fees, monthly fees, whatever fees attached to that corporate account, plus there might be a minimum balance requirement. So that in case that's the thing, that you do meet those criteria and you're not caught by any nasty surprises with that. Number three, make sure that you can charge your customers. If you run a brick and mortar business, people will obviously pay cash. They will come in with credit cards, so you need to be able to monetize those transactions. So make sure you can charge. I didn't have this issue because my company was in the real estate business and everything that I sold was through an escrow company, and then money came from there. So that was a different ball game. Number 4 is online presence, social media, website. Key thing here is that we need to be able to promote, market our services. So in today's world, technology is everything. So this is key as well. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 to get going. Before we go into my particular case on the next sheet, I want to talk about something very critical, and that is the cost structure of your new business. If you look at statistics, 20% of all the companies, they go out of business in their first year. And 50%, meaning half of all the companies, go out of business by the end of 5th year. And 7 out of 10, meaning 70%, go bankrupt or stop by the end of the 10th year. So the odds are really not on your side. But as mentioned in my previous videos, sometimes the goal is just to stay in the game. If you play the game long enough, the chances are that you'll start making money. So right now in the beginning, one of the most important things is to make sure that we don't incur a lot of fixed costs so that we don't run into trouble with those. And there are 2 kinds of costs that every starting entrepreneur needs to understand. There are variable costs and there are fixed costs. What are variable costs? Let's say I sell shirts, t-shirts as an example, and I have a shop that does that. I buy the t-shirts for 10 and I sell them for 20. That 10 is my spread. But the 10, my purchase price, that cost is the variable cost because it depends on how much I buy and sell, right? How much volume I do. Using that same example, I rent a place where I can run my business out of. That rent would be my fixed cost. If I hire employees, that would also be a fixed cost for my business. So if it's possible, don't buy anything expensive in the beginning. If you're a consultant, you sell your knowledge, your expertise. All you need is a laptop and a phone. And most likely, you can work out of your own house. That's very important. But as said, stay in the game. And if you're that last woman or man standing at the end of year 10, there are only 3 of you left. The other 7 who started, they are out of business. I can guarantee you that you're going to be one of the successful ones making money at that point. And you have plenty of time to improve, pivot, and get better during the first 10 years. So stay in the game. Okay, so then into more practical stuff about my particular case or my business. So what is it I did? As I mentioned, I wanted to do something else after corporate. And since I had done some of those buy and hold real estate deals in my 20s, I had some background. And I knew that I liked concrete visual things, and I kind of felt that real estate could be my thing. But I knew that there was a lot of competition. I knew the market was big. I knew that I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the agents. I didn't know the contractors. I didn't know about purchase price, sale price, how much it cost to fix something up. I had 0 knowledge. So I had an uphill battle in front of me, so to say. So the first and probably the most important thing in the beginning is to make sure that you understand your market. You do your homework, you do the heavy lifting in the beginning. So point number 1 is market understanding. Market understanding. And specifically creating your own niche. We have talked about this too. Remember? Instead of looking at the ocean, you first carve out your little pond, your little niche, and then you might need to make that even smaller so that you become a category of 1, almost a dominant player in that little niche of yours, and gradually start growing. My problem was that San Diego County was huge and there were plenty of investors. No matter how much I carved my market, it was filled with offers, full of other investors who were bidding on properties left and right. That's okay. I had to deal with that. So my niche in the beginning was that I picked 7 to 8 zip codes that I looked at. Plus, I was only focusing on 3-bedroom, single-family homes. Those 2 criteria. And then the next thing I did was that I kept analyzing the market. Every single transaction, meaning every single deal that a fellow investor did in the last 12 months, I analyzed. And I plugged the information into my Excel spreadsheet. Purchase price, my assumption on the rehab, and the sale price. What I thought the spread was, and my notes. And after that, I drove every single property. So the first 6 months, all I did was this. Plus, I called the agents. So I analyzed the market, made sure I understood what I was dealing with. So then, the next step, when you know what the market looks like, you define a problem. And when I looked at the problem here, I understood that there were plenty of investors who claimed they were reliable, but the reality was something different. Everybody said that, okay, yeah, I'm making good promises and I keep them all, and I never renegotiate my prices and all of that. But what I quickly realized was that a common theme among these investors, not all of them, but some of them, was that people made offers, and then once the offer was accepted, they started renegotiating it. And if you think about it, if you're an agent, what could be worse than losing face in front of your customer? And at that point, San Diego County was a place, like the whole United States, where market was filled with REOs, short sales, bank-owned properties. People defaulted on their loans. But still, there was plenty of competition, plenty of bidders going on all the time. Because the smart money understood that what you need to do is you swim upstream. When everybody else is selling, that's your buying opportunity, and vice versa. So I had to deal with that. But I realized that everybody else was making the same claim. But that was clearly a problem. The property was listed at 180. Somebody offered 200, was able to get his or her offer accepted. And then after the fact, they were like, okay, well, unfortunately, I found this, I found that, and started renegotiating. And the way I realized this was going on was that, first of all, I talked to these agents, and I noticed that the same properties that went pending were relisted. And I was like, what the heck's going on? So there's something broken with the system. And I saw that as my opportunity. So you define a problem, and this was lack of reliability. Number 3, you solve a problem. So first you define the problem, you solve it. And how do you do it? You create an offer. So here, when I was analyzing the market the first 6 months, and by the way, I had given myself a 12-month window to start making money. When I left corporate, I renegotiated a severance package. Negotiated a severance package, I'm sorry. And with that money, I was able to make sure that my family of 4 back then was able to eat and pay rent. Well, it was mortgage back then, but anyhow. But 12 months was my target to start making money. And I knew that I had a lot of things to do. But coming back to my offer here, I got sidetracked. Number 3, so you create an offer. Believe it or not, my offer was as simple as this. I make good promises and I keep them all. That's all. And of course, issue was that everybody else was saying the same thing. And there were 50 or 100 offers on every property that hit the market. So I had to somehow create my own niche and make sure that these agents that basically control the supply and the offers coming in recognized me as a potential player in that market. So I kept calling these people the ones I was able to reach over the phone, I basically said that, look, I can come in, I can drive the property, walk it with you, give my analysis on ARV, after repair value, and what it would cost me to fix it up. I knew that I would learn as I went myself. Plus, I was able to make connections with these people who control the inventory. And gradually, step by step, when I repeated the same message to the right people, I started getting some traction. And one unique thing that we have to keep in mind regarding offer is that, especially when we are new players in the market, the offer we make has to be so good that it's almost impossible to say no to it. So I basically offered no downside to these agents. Look, I can give you some feedback. If you don't have time, I can take pictures for you. I can go and walk the property. What do you need? So I was able to make these little promises that were not buying anything, but I show up on time. I do this little favor for you, and they started to realize that this guy is for real. He's actually reliable and trustworthy. And then the other big thing was that I promised these people that I would never make you lose face in front of your clients, which are the banks, because the agent never wants to see a deal fall through, that the buyer walks. Because if that happens, they lose face and credibility in front of their paying customer. So I told them that, look, no matter what I find, even if there's a cracked slab or a leaking roof or a foundation issue that nobody saw, I will never ever come back and complain about it. I'll eat it up. I'll suck it up. It's my problem. It's not yours. And then I got my first deal when I kept grinding after 6 months. And from there on, I started getting more traction and getting more deals. And the known agents, by the way, all of them, the ones I did most business with, are still my friends today. I keep in touch with them. But this is how I built my case. And you could say that, okay, well, this is a real estate specific story. Yes, it is. But these points here apply to every single business. Understanding the market, carve out your niche, and then keep grinding. Define a problem that you see based on this study, so to say. Solve that problem by creating your unique offer that is so good that in the beginning, it's almost impossible to say no to it. And it might mean that you work for free for a month, for half a year, or for a year, or as long as it takes until you get your first deals and you start making money. So that's what I did. Hopefully this helps. Until next time.